Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is a show I absolutely adore growing up, and I decided recently to watch the entirety of season 1, which is 60 episodes, it's a really long season, as an adult. How do I feel about it now? Does it hold up? Is it one of those shows that you kind of look back with rose-tinted nostalgia? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. It's Morphin time. Hey people, I'm Jim and you have landed on Planet Rewind. If you're a fan of 80s and 90s nostalgia, click subscribe and we can reminisce together. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers tells the story of 5 teenagers who are enlisted by the mighty Zordon to battle the also mighty but evil Rita Repulsa. As the Power Rangers, they are gifted these incredible powers and they become superheroes. Now, I remember watching this show as a kid, sitting in front of that TV, you know, early in the morning, and I was just overwhelmed by it. You know, the striking elements of the show, the colours, the vibrancy, and just the fun of it. But how is it when you go back as an adult, where there are still lots of positives to the show? I do still like the innocence and purity of the show. I feel like that's been lost in recent years. In a lot of children's stuff, you know, there's more attempts to be edgy and make the characters annoying. These guys are just good people. These teenagers, you like watching them. And I did like the good-hearted nature of the show, but it kind of clashes with some of the negatives I have about the show. So I'm in two minds, but I do like watching them. I just wish they could have elaborated on the characters a bit more and given them more to do, which I'll get on to later. There's an innocent escapism to these characters, and you know, you can believe in them watching it as a kid. You know, as an adult, you just like how sweet they are as characters. As a kid, you really believed and looked up to the Power Rangers. Of course, the colours and the vibrancy and just the style of the show. Of course, you know, the Power Rangers stuff was made up from footage from a Japanese show. So any of the fighting in the show or the Power Rangers was actually taken from that show, but there were actually lots of scenes filmed. It's a misconception that they didn't film a lot of the scenes themselves. There is many scenes where the US show actually did film their own action scenes, and I just find these scenes so memorable. You know, the Power Rangers suits are incredible. I think they are the best Power Rangers suits out of any Power Rangers shows. I genuinely do. You know, and I still get that. I still like watching these suits. They really do jump off the screen at me. I remember as a kid, you know, I would rather be a Power Ranger than Batman. Yeah, I said it. Because, you know, I just love the way that the suits just shined and just jumped off the screen at you. And you just, you know, were captivated by them. The colourful, positive nature of it. I think there was a real effort in this show to just be visually memorable. You know, of course, Zordon, that epic image of that head, that bloody head in a jar, basically. He's basically a head in a jar, isn't he, Zordon? But he was such a memorable image. You know, Alpha the robot, the kind of command centre. And of course, one thing I'll never get tired of in Power Rangers is that iconic theme that opens the show. That guitar riff. It's one of the greatest guitar riffs of all time, out of any music, guys. It is up there. It's an absolutely sensational riff. It just fills you with energy. It gets you pumped up. This show has a great way. Even as an adult, I watch it and I still get pumped up. I still get drawn into the Power Rangers world because that song, you can't get away from it. It's stunning. And of course, that opening intro to the show where, you know, the world is perfectly painted and created. And of course, Rita Repulsa comes up out of the ground and goes, ah! 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 Now, while this show is extremely surface level, there are a few life lessons for the kids. There are lessons about working together. There are lessons about being kind. There are lessons about being there for people who can't defend themselves. And, you know, just being good to the environment, you know, being good to your teachers and this and that. It's very, very surface level, guys. Don't get me wrong. And that is a negative I'll get into about the show in a few moments. It's very surface level, but at least it's there. At least there's something, you know. At least kids can get something going into their heads of, you know, oh, it'll be better to be kinder and work with my friends more. As an adult, you watch it and you want more because it's like, oh, that's a good idea, that could have been elaborated on, but it's Power Rangers, guys. It's Power Rangers. The Zords in the show were really, really cool. I love the Transformers edge this show has. And you know, it's just great to see these Zords assemble as a kid. But even now, I'm wide-eyed at it. I love this. You know, it's a moment in time to see the footage of these Zords come together. It really is iconic in television, I think. I think anyone, even people who scoff at Power Rangers, will see these scenes of the Zords forming and they'll be impressed. It is impressive. They were just so cool. And I remember I had Zords as a kid and Power Rangers figures as a kid. And, you know, there was nothing better than just seeing myself owning a version of that massive, awesome thing that I would see on screen the Power Rangers using every week to battle the bad guys. You know, it's kind of like my Transformers, this show was, because those Zords, very Transformers-esque, but they had their own edge to it, and they were just wonderful to watch, and they stood out from what was around on television at the time. No one was doing this, and then many shows did do this. They followed Power Rangers suit, and there was many imitators with these sorts of massive kind of weaponry characters. You know, shows like VR Troopers, Beetleborgs, Masked Rider, they took the aesthetic, they took the Zords, they took the suits, they took this and that, and they were Power Rangers clones. This show was very, very influential. I think we really do need to talk about Rita herself, Rita Repulsa, played physically by Machiko Soga, but voiced by Barbara Goodson. She was just, you know, the most stereotypical bad guy, just snipey, shouting, screaming and this and that, but I don't find her annoying. I actually find her character really entertaining. It might be because of my nostalgia towards it. It might be because of her memorable look. It might be because, you know, the way she has that massive like staff that she uses and throws down, and she's got her minions behind her working for her on monsters. Maybe the whole aesthetic, maybe she is annoying if I'd never seen it as a kid. But I just find certain moments of this with Rita hilarious. Whenever she loses, the way she throws tantrums, the way she celebrates when she thinks she's got the Power Rangers beaten, she's just psychotic. She really is. She's almost like a Batman 60s villain.
Oh, I have a headache. Why don't I ever get to win? It's just not fair.
Something that I will really praise this show for is the two-parters are incredible. Now, obviously I've only watched season 1. That's 60 episodes, guys, so not too shabby. So I can't speak on season 2 and 3, but there are some great two-parters in season 1 where actually the stakes get risen. There is a little bit of filler to this show. Sometimes some of the stories are just like, okay, but when it gets to two-parters, the show really kicks into another gear, and there are some great entertaining two-parters in this show, and there's also a fantastic 5-parter called Green with Evil, which I'll talk about later in this video.
And now, Red Ranger, it is time for me to destroy you. I must be victorious for my queen!
Let's get into some of the negatives of watching Power Rangers as an adult. You know, the acting, you really notice it this time round. The acting can be laughable. The acting can be bloody rubbish. None of these actors were fantastic. They were a little cheesy. They were just a little bit cringe. I still like them because there was this innocent aura throughout the show. But sometimes there are just these moments where the actors are terrible and it does throw you off a little bit, and it almost feels like they're not even trying at times, and you notice that as an adult. As a kid it kind of goes over your head.
How are you doing?
I'm hanging. I've been working on my karate, focusing on my schoolwork. I'm just trying to keep busy, you know?
I miss you.
Yeah. But you guys were a team long before I showed up.
And I feel like this show isn't particularly binge-worthy. Now, there are lots of filler episodes in this show, and I feel like very much so this show, some of the episodes were just like, throw this out there so the kids would buy the toys. You know, there wasn't much effort to some of the episodes. Some of the episodes can be really repetitive. It's like the same thing happens. Like Rita decides to send down a monster which she knows won't win. Sometimes there'll be like the most minuscule plot, like music is the plot, or food is the plot, or the environment is the plot. Like literally, it'll be like they'll mention music in the episode, they'll mention food or the environment, and it won't be discussed again, and that'll just be the plot. I do think, looking back at this, Bulk and Skull, bless the actors, it's not their fault, but I think Bulk and Skull as characters, you know, they're not that funny and they don't really make sense. Like, these characters are the worst bullies ever. Why do they carry on trying to bully? You almost feel sorry for Bulk and Skull because every episode they try and bully the Power Rangers and they just end up slipping on a banana peel or something like that. And you're just like, why do these guys carry on being bullies? They're rubbish at bullying. And it's like, you feel sorry for them. They must have pain inside that every day they wake up and they have to go and bully, you know. Why don't the Power Rangers, who are kind, why don't they open their hearts up to Bulk and Skull instead of just always embarrassing them? Eventually I'll go, well, you know, these guys, we're constantly having them fall in their arse. Why don't we just try and ask them, why do they pick on everyone? So the issue with this show being so surface level is there was some world building that could have happened. There really was. There was some interesting ideas that could have happened. I wanted to see the kind of technology expanded on. I wanted to see how the power worked, because there's very much moments in this where the Power Rangers just gain a new power, gain new strength, jump into a Zord, do this and that. It'd be nice if they kind of elaborated. Not massively. I'm not asking for kind of in-depth plots in Power Rangers, but it'd be great if you could have opened this up a little bit and made it less just what you see, and, you know, and actually elaborated on how the world works. Now and again you'll see that Rita Repulsa can do things that pretty much guarantee her victory, so why has she not done them before? She has ways of controlling the Power Rangers' powers, she has ways of transporting the Power Rangers to places, she has ways of creating Power Rangers, but she doesn't do it. Like, now and again she'll just throw a monster down there despite her incredible capabilities. It's like, what are you doing, Rita? You're just messing about with some of these episodes, love. And Zordon, it sometimes makes no sense. He'll like thrust a new power on the Power Rangers, which he could have done all along, but he saved it for when they just need it. I just wish there was more of a elaboration on how the power worked, where the power came from, and this and that. And I think there was lots of opportunity for interaction between the characters and character stuff, particularly between Tommy and Jason. When the Green Ranger comes in, you could have had a battle for leadership of the Power Rangers. You know, nothing, as I said, nothing brutal, nothing that in depth, but you could have elaborated, and that's what's frustrating. You're sitting there going, wow, if Power Rangers had a little bit smarter of writing, it could have been one of the greatest kid shows of all time. I mean, I still think it is a great nostalgic kids show. I do think, looking back, this is a good show, but what the adult perspective gives you is how this show could have been amazing. The cheesiness in the show is also slightly annoying, like when the Power Rangers just go, yeah, yeah, Power Rangers. Like, if you're binging this show, that will get annoying. That will get repetitive.
Back off, Fang Face! The good guys are here! Get off our planet!
Cause we're the Power Rangers! And we're not backing down! Yeah!
One thing I always laugh at this show is how Jason says Tyrannosaurus when he morphs. It's like the ultimate stereotypical, I am the man, I am cool, I am awesome. And I remember as a kid, I would love how he said it, because it's just so badass, so masculine. Like, you looked up to the Red Ranger when he done it, but it's just like, look how he says it. Tyrannosaurus, like, just so like action hero. I am the Sylvester Stallone of the Power Rangers. Looking back on Power Rangers as an adult, I did enjoy this experience. You know, it got difficult. 60 episodes is very difficult. The show could be very repetitive. To be fair, it's probably not made for binging. It's made for watching weekly as a kid, wide-eyed. Maybe if I watched this weekly, it wouldn't have frustrated me that much. But I still have a real soft spot for Power Rangers. Not sure about the other shows. I remember watching Power Rangers Turbo. I remember watching Power Rangers in Space. Maybe I'll go back and watch them. Let me know if you'd like me to. I just love the idea of the Power Rangers. I think the idea is really good, and I still think it has one of the best colour palettes and vibrant styles of any kids show. And I really enjoy watching it. I wish there was more to it, yes, and I do find it cheesy, but I have a soft spot for it, and I think it's a little bit more nostalgia. I think we need to respect Power Rangers for the legacy it created. It's still going on, guys. 9,000 series later, Power Rangers are still morphing. If you want to see me watch any more nostalgic shows on this channel and give you my thoughts as an old man, let me know in the comments. I'm actually thinking of doing this for some other shows, so I am considering it, but please give me any recommendations. If you enjoyed this video, why not stick around and check out the video on the screen now, where I talk about 10 things you may not know about the upcoming sequel to one of my favourite nostalgic franchises, Bill and Ted. Thanks for watching, be excellent to each other, and Tyrannosaurus!